Why does making friends as an adult feel so
What
hard?
should I wear on a first
What the
date?
hell is a 401?
But that
Why
hookup
is
was
buying my
not
first
good.
home
So
What do I want my
frustrating.
life to look like in 5 years?
We want to know too.
Since 2012, the Everygirl has been an online destination to help women around the world achieve the life of their dreams. Now, we're excited to bring you the same inspiring content with the Everygirl podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Everygirl podcast. The song Rich Girl by Gwen Stefani has been stuck in my head all week as I've been prepping today's episode because we are talking about rich girl tips, groundbreaking advice that you need to become a hot, smart, rich girl. Today's episode is going to be a slightly new format. We've had the most incredible guests with phenomenal takeaways, and I know how it goes. When you're listening to a podcast, you're driving in your car or you're on your hot girl walk or you're folding laundry. So you hear this amazing advice, but then you don't really remember it later to actually be able to apply it to your life. So I wanted to try out an episode where I pull the most powerful takeaways from guests, in addition to offering my own advice and input as usual, so that you are getting the best of the best advice in a way that you can actually go back to and remember and apply to your life. Take the action steps, which is the important part. So I've rounded up for you 5 of the best money tips from all of our past guests to help you master your money. And I have a lot of thoughts and additional tips to add. You know that I like to talk a lot. I had a really hard time narrowing down some advice because we've had so many incredible guests that gave so many incredible tips. So let me know if you like this format and I'll do a part 2 or maybe we can do a different topic. Now, I know the word rich can ruffle some feathers. So I just want to define what this word means because to me it has nothing to do with what you have, it's what you can do. When we think of rich, I think a lot of us think of owning designer bags and traveling on nice vacations, buying a fancy house, maybe just being like a living, breathing embodiment of our consumerist society. It's totally fine to want to have nice things that bring you joy. And of course, it's okay to want to live in a beautiful home and go on nice vacations. Like, those are definitely parts of my rich life. But we can't really define rich in that way because when we only look at what we can buy, we will never have enough. If you define success in how many designer handbags you can buy, you will always want more. And the opposite of feeling rich is feeling like you don't have enough. The idea of rich can mean something different to different people. For some people, it means the security of knowing that they can pay their bills on time. For others, it means they can buy an iced coffee or order the extra guac without stressing about it. For many people, it means breaking generational patterns or being able to give their children a better life than they had. For most of us, it boils down to the freedom to live our fullest life. Being quote unquote rich is also about our power. When I talk about rich girls and use that terminology, it does not just mean like the gorgeous, stunning baddies that perfectly embody quiet luxury. I mean, we all, as women, we're smart and we're rich. We have been told for generations, like thousands of years, that we're not good at money or that money isn't our thing, that money is for men. I'm speaking from personal experience, even as someone with parents who instilled in me a lot of strength and drive. I still have realized how much kind of internalized belief I had. Like, well, I'm not good at money. Money isn't my thing. But the patriarchy lied to us, girls. We, as women, are innately powerful with money. There's a lot of research on this. Women drive 70 to 80% of consumer purchasing decisions, meaning they influence more spending than men, regardless of whether or not they are the primary earners. This is why the majority of marketing in the US is geared toward women. We hold all the purchasing power, which drives this goddamn economy. There have also been many studies that show Fortune 500 companies with a higher representation of women in executive positions outperform their industry medians year after year. and companies with the highest percentages of women board directors achieve a higher return on equity compared to companies with the lowest percentages of women board directors. So at this point, it is just absolute fact that statistically speaking, you, yes, you listening right now, are meant to be an absolute money baddie. Coming from a girl who always believed either her dad or her future husband would be the expert over her own finances, it's about freaking time that we all start acting and living and becoming the rich girls that we clearly can be. So, on this mission to help us all become rich girls, I've rounded up the best advice from past guests, the pieces of money advice over the past few years of the show that have completely changed my outlook on finances and have helped me become so much richer, as well as some added tips or reflections from me. The first tip I have for you is to have a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly rich girl routine. You know that for any goal you have, you need to have a routine that is implemented in both your short-term schedule, like daily, as well as your long-term, like monthly or annually. We know this when it comes to our health. If we want to get healthy, we talk about all the daily morning routines and the weekly workout schedules. But when it comes to money, most of us are not as routine. You should be checking in, reevaluating, reinvesting, and reprioritizing your personal finances on a regular basis. But I'm not talking about your mother's budget. You know that I'm not the girl who's going to recommend spreadsheets or any of that shit. We have to make it feel motivating and exciting in order for any routine to stick. I absolutely loved Money with Katie's routine that she shared when she was on the show back in August of 2024. Here it is. I would love to know, Katie, habits, routines, everything that you do for your finances. And I want you to get very micro, whether that is apps, whether it's you have a monthly money date with yourself. I want to know everything that you're doing with your money.
Sure. Okay. So we'll get really granular. I'll take you through the whole system.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So the most kind of micro piece of it is this app called Copilot. It's one of those budgeting apps that hooks up to your credit cards and your accounts. So all of my checking, savings, all of our investment accounts, all of our credit cards are all hooked into this one app, which is perfect because it becomes my dashboard for everything that's happening in my financial life, which is valuable for a few reasons. One, my husband and I have credit cards that are hooked up to the same accounts. He's an authorized user on mine or vice versa. And so we have a lot of credit cards. We also have a lot of accounts. I want to see bird's eye view without having to log into 50 different banks. What's happening with my money every day? This has allowed me to catch fraud immediately. Someone has this credit card. I see it the second it happens, nip it in the bud, it's over. I'm not a month later being wait, what's all this stuff on my statement? And I've had this happen a couple times. Credit cards, the security is getting better, but I do think they're still quite vulnerable. So that's one piece of it. I also want to be able to see when new income is coming in. So when there is income coming into our checking account, I want to know really generally what we're making. Oh, does that look a little low to you? Oh, that's weird. For example, I was talking to someone the other day who was I realized that my company was charging me twice for my health insurance. I don't know what was going on, but it was docking my pay 2 times for my plan. And they had a nice plan. So they were losing $100 a paycheck that they should not have been losing. But you don't see those things unless you're paying attention and you're familiar and intimate with the numbers, that you see the paycheck and you're wait, that's different. Or you see the balance and you're that seems odd. There should be more money in there. So intimacy, familiarity, I check Copilot every day and I just quickly on the dashboard, I see all the recent transactions and I just go down the list and go, yep. Okay, that was all me or that was all him. They're all categorized correctly. So at the end of the month, I can see what we spent in every category. So that brings me to the second step, which is at the end of every month, I use a product called the Wealth Planner. It's something that we built and developed 5 years ago, and every year since we have updated and enhanced it. And I use my Wealth Planner to basically record a snapshot. What happened this month? So I use Copilot to aggregate everything. I am not tracking receipts. I'm not writing things down. I am just going, okay, Copilot has aggregated all our spending across all of our accounts. It has all the balances of all of our investment accounts, and it has all the incoming transactions in our checking account. So I sit down with the wealth planner, I pull up the correct month, and I just input the numbers. So then what I can do is over time, I have this kind of data source where I can see patterns and trends start to emerge. Oh, we're spending more and more on this category that's not on purpose. Or oh, okay, we actually spent way more on travel this year than we thought we were going to. Are we happy with that? Or are we just not being very prudent with our points and miles? Or are we traveling more than we should be? It's just a way to check back, are my intentions and values mapping to the way that I'm spending my money? And am I getting closer to my goal? Is my net worth going up over time? Are my debts going down? Are my assets going up? Am I moving in the right direction generally? And importantly, am I getting closer to financial independence? So financial independence is this goal that I think every person should have, but it's the point at which your investments are going to produce enough income for you to live on. Your money has made enough money for you and has compounded for long enough that now you actually don't have to work for money anymore because you have bought your own freedom. Your money is paying you the money that you need to live. And this is a number that everyone can calculate for yourself. This is a number that the wealth planner calculates for you and projects the trajectory on your behalf. So you can see based on your current income, spending, investments, if you were to continue down that path, when you are scheduled to kind of reach that point. Some people, it takes their whole lives and they reach it at retirement and yay. Some people never reach it if they're not even aware that it's an option, or some people are in such resource scarce situations, which again is where good policy comes in, because that type of person who's chronically resource scarce does not have the opportunity to build wealth. That's a problem. And so the end of every month we do that. We fill out the wealth planner, check in with one another. And I kind of do that all year long. Sometimes if I feel like things have gone a little off the rails, or I'm looking at the months and something feels amiss, we might do a mid-year check-in. But typically I wait until the end of the year and then we review all the data for the whole year together. We look at how much did we earn? How much did we spend? Where were our top spending categories? Where were we most over budget, under budget? How did our net worth change? How did our investments change? What are we anticipating to earn next year? And what kind of plan do we want to make for that money? So we're paying a lot of attention, but I feel really good about that routine because it keeps us on the same page. It doesn't feel overbearing. I'm not in my day-to-day decisions being let me check my budget and see if I can buy this. It's not like I'm allowing it to dictate my behavior. It's more of me trying to keep myself honest and accountable with okay, I said I was going to spend $1,000 this month on XYZ. Did I? Or did I spend 2,000? Oh, I spent 2,000. Interesting. Why is that? What happened? Is there a reason that happened? Did something go off the rails? That's kind of our system, and maybe it's more granular than a high-level view, but that's what we do.
That's what I needed, was the details, because I feel like we hear all of these big grand money concepts and I'm always okay, but I have my check, now what? I need
Mhm.
those. So that was so helpful. And I also think it's so interesting for people listening who might be that feels like too much work. I've seen this on TikTok, of course. I saw someone say, everybody wants to become a millionaire, but how do you expect you're going to have $1 million if you don't even know what's happening with $1,000, right? You've got to start knowing exactly where that money's going, because how do you expect to grow your money if the money you have right now, you have no idea what's happening with it? If I don't know exactly every dollar that's leaving and where it's going to and how I'm thinking to invest it, how could I ever expect to get to the place that I want to be financially? How can I expect to have $1 million if I don't know where $1,000 going?
It's so crazy too, to quote another money writer, Ramit, who I was referencing earlier in this conversation. He always says the way that you feel about money is highly uncorrelated to the amount of money that you have. I expected to reach a point where I can invest. I feel ready. I feel like I'm making enough money to invest. That never happened. I just had to make the decision to start. It wasn't that I ever was oh, I have finally surpassed the salary where I am now capable. I was actually capable the whole time. My fixed costs were low. Even when I was making $52,000 a year and splitting a room, I had a roommate I was paying $800 or $900 a month for rent. Even then, I was able to invest. I just wasn't, because I didn't feel like I was rolling in excess cash. I was well, certainly I'm not ready. Only rich people invest. But how did they get rich? by investing. That's how that happens. And so how I started doing this was I started with my 401k plan at work. And God bless my mother. Before I even got my first paycheck, she goes, put 10% in the 401k. Don't even let them send you home with the first paycheck with that money on it. You don't want to see it. You don't even want to know that it could be yours. So I think because I started with that 10%, I never saw it. I just immediately started doing, it was like, what, $5,000 a year into the 401k. Once I did that, I was like, oh, well, I don't really miss it. So then, a couple months later, I'm like, what about 150? Okay, what about 200? Okay, well, now I have a side hustle, so now I'm going to try 300. And like over time, you just kind of get competitive with yourself and just keep notching it up a little bit. I was pretty much starting at zero. And I think it took like 3-ish years to get $100,000 invested. I did have a company match in my 401k. Your money is growing 10% a year or whatever. But it happened a lot faster than I thought it was going to. Because again, I had like $200 and I was making $55,000 a year. But I think once I saw that it was possible, I was like, how much more can I make and save and invest? You got to get that evidence first, right? You have to see what's possible and like see it happening in your own accounts with your name on it. And then you're going to feel bought in. But in the beginning, it is kind of a leap of faith. You do just have to do it scared in the beginning.
I think this is the most genius rich girl routine. I downloaded Copilot after this conversation and I've been using it ever since. I feel so much more on top of and aware of my money and where it's going and where I want it to go. Tip number 2 is to look at your current salary as a starting point, not what you'll make this year. You may remember an episode from last month with Erin McGough, better known as Advice with Erin, a content creator that gives career and life advice to her audience of over 6 million people. I loved this mindset shift to look at your salary as a starting point instead of looking at your salary as the way most of us do, which is like the total amount of what you're going to make within the year. And that goes for both thinking outside the box on how to earn money outside of your current job, as well as being strategic to make a plan to earn more money in your current job. Here's that advice from Erin.
I was speaking to somebody recently and they were talking about how they're just so bummed that their salary was like $61,000. And they were like, that's all I'm going to make this year, $61,000. And I said, no, 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 no. Mm-mm. That's the minimum you're going to make this year. Your salary is a minimum. That's just the base of what you're going to make. You can go out and get a side hustle, drive Uber, dog walk, ask for a raise, negotiate a bonus. That's what you're guaranteed to make. So I think just being creative about the ways that you can make money and then budgeting accordingly. Maybe you dog walk or you dog sit. That's something you already like doing. And then you take all that money from Rover or whatever it is and you invest it. That's extra money. And even if that's just experimenting with, maybe trying to start your own little side business or Etsy shop or content creation, maybe it doesn't make money right away, but just diversifying yourself. People always say to me like, how do you work for yourself? That's so unstable. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Nobody can fire me. Nobody can lay me off. I have the most stable job in the world. So I think it's just about reframing things and understanding like the world is your oyster. And I know you're busy and you have limited amount of time in the day. I know it might not be for everybody, but I encourage you, like, go out and get more money. Go get your bag.
If someone does want to get a raise by the end of the year, are there certain things that they should start doing now to put in place so that they increase their chances of getting a certain raise or a different promotion or salary a year from now?
Oh, yeah. Start bringing the squeaky wheel for sure. People think that asking for a raise is like, okay, at my annual December performance meeting, I'll ask for a raise. It's like, no, 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 no. That's the finish line. You got to start planting that seed right now. If you've been there for a while and you really feel like you're underpaid, it's time to start planting that seed and just say, I'd like to discuss an adjustment to my compensation. Never ask for a raise. Ask for an adjustment to your compensation. Because you're not asking for a raise, you're asking to be fairly compensated. When can we discuss that? What do you think would be reasonable? When can we have a real discussion about that? And tell them like since we established my compensation, I've added this responsibility, I've learned this new skill, I contributed to the success on this project. Name 3 things that you did and have them think, we cannot lose this girl. We cannot lose her. She's going to find a job elsewhere. And that's what you're going to use as leverage to negotiate your raise. And who knows, they might give it to you right then. But you want to start planting that seed early.
This is such powerful advice. And I really loved this reframe because I think a lot of us can feel really limited when we believe that our money coming in is not up to us. Like, above all else, especially as women, I just want you to feel in control of your own finances. We have spent far too long feeling like how much or how little money we have and what we have to spend is up to someone else. Whether it was the fact that men controlled money, or your company is undervaluing you, or the fact that we are still actively living in a gender pay gap. As of March 2025, women are making 78% to 83% of what men earn. And just energetically, feeling like our wealth is not in our own hands. Another powerful way to look at this that I want to just sneak in there comes from Gen Z money expert Taylor Price from the episode with her back in January, where she says to stop saying to yourself, I can't afford this, and start asking yourself, how can I afford this? Like, if you find yourself saying, I wish I could go get a latte every day, but I can't afford that. Ask yourself, how can I afford that coffee? Can you sign up for Rover to walk some dogs so you make $20 extra a week to get your iced Americano every Thursday and Friday? Or if you do not have the capacity to take on another side business, I also hear you. I understand. Can you figure out how much you need to make from your salary in order to afford an iced coffee on a regular basis, and start planting that seed with your manager, just like Erin recommended, so that you are working toward that salary or a change in compensation that can get you to that salary. So viewing your initial salary as a base instead of the limit of what you'll make is a really important tool to actually increase the money you make, as well as to help you feel in control of your own money. Rich girl tip number 3 is to live in a state of abundance. Some of you, I know, may roll your eyes when I talk about abundance or manifesting as tools to actually get more money in your bank account. And I get it. I understand the eye rolls. There is a lot of advice out there that's like, just imagine you're rich and you'll be rich. Or I've heard this advice from a lot of other podcasters or influencers like, stop being so negative. Tell yourself you'll make a lot of money and you will. That advice is rooted in a lot of privilege because it completely ignores the very real reasons that so many people are living paycheck to paycheck and unable to get raises or promotions or a secure job, no matter how hard they work. And at the end of the day, no amount of thinking or wanting will bring you more money. Money comes from the action steps. However, you know how much I talk about how the mind determines our action steps. So, to some degree, keeping in mind wealth disparity, the gender pay gap, the factors that try to keep people contained in their socioeconomic status, psychology says your mindset about money can affect a lot. Our thoughts and behaviors shape neural pathways. When you think in terms of abundance, you are reinforcing neural networks that encourage proactive and healthy financial behaviors. But if you focus on scarcity, the brain wires itself for risk aversion and stress, which can prevent you from making beneficial financial moves. A 2005 study in Nature Neuroscience found that the anticipation of financial rewards, aka tapping into abundance, believing you will be abundant in money, activates the brain's reward system, which increases motivation and decision-making for financial gain. Another study done in 2012, published in Psychological Science, found that scarcity thinking leads to impulsive financial decisions and cognitive overload, while abundant thinking improves long-term planning. Who better to look to for advice on tapping into the abundance mindset other than one of your favorite guests of all time and mine, Mimi Bouchard. In her second appearance on the Everygirl podcast back in January, Mimi shared how she uses the feeling of abundance to manifest more money. What's really interesting is she got into this work of self-improvement as a way to make money. She has told the story about how she was in such a bad financial place. She literally had to have her sister call her an Uber because she didn't have enough money in her bank account to afford it. She literally had $8 in her account. And then she went through a major journey of overhauling her life, and she now is extremely successful. She has done very well for herself financially, But as a byproduct, she also changed her physical health, her career, and her entire life, which I think really speaks to how money is not the end goal. It's a tool to help us live our best lives. Listen to this.
I wanted to make money because I didn't want to be broke, and I wanted to have the security that I never felt as a kid when my parents were struggling and needing to remortgage the house because they couldn't afford things. And I never wanted that. So I got into this work because of money. And I've always been very money driven, which I think is a beautiful thing. I don't think that's bad at all. I have a great relationship with money and abundance, and I feel very grateful for money. And a lot of people ask me, like, okay, I want to be rich, but how do I act as if I don't have that money in my bank account and I can't go drive that car and go to those places? So what you need to do is live in that in between phase. I'm going to give a really simple example. Imagine if someone called you and they said, okay, you won the lottery and you're going to get $5 million landing in your bank account, but it's going to take 5 to 7 working days because that's obviously how long it takes to process things sometimes. But you've won it, and they confirmed and they emailed you and it was all official. They told you that this is the money coming into your account. Here it is with the taxes reduced. This is all landing into your account in 5 to 7 working days. And that was a fact. How would you feel for 5 to 7 days before it lands in your account? You would energetically feel completely different. You would live your life like you already knew you were a multimillionaire. And that feeling you'd have is like, it's already mine. And you couldn't necessarily go buy that dream bag or car or whatever it is in this moment, but you're going to be making plans on what to do with that money. You're going to be figuring out how to invest. You're going to be putting money aside for savings. You're going to pay off maybe your parents' mortgage, like whatever it is for you. And when you live in that in between, and when you really feel the feelings of it already being yours, even if the physical hasn't yet manifested, that's what you need to live in.
I love this advice, to live as if you already have a lot of money, but it's just not in your bank account. Think about how smart this is. You wouldn't be able to physically buy things you don't have the tangible money for. You wouldn't be buying Chanel purses and Ferraris, but that feeling of security and abundance that you might be feeling waiting for the check to hit your account is exactly what you can tap into. You may have heard of this famous story of Jim Carrey. When he was a struggling actor trying to find a job in Hollywood, he wrote a check to himself for $10 million with the date on it 1995. And he would go to this beautiful street in LA where a lot of the huge mansions are, and he would visualize himself being a successful actor. And he didn't do this as like a manifestation strategy. Manifestation talk was not around back then. In an interview he did where I heard him talk about this, he said that it was just a way to cope with having no money and struggling to get jobs. Cut to 1995, and he landed exactly $10 million deal for the movie The Mask. Jim Carrey is the OG manifestation girly. So the point of this is that it's not about wishing, it's about aligning your mindset with your actions and feeling the abundance before you physically have abundance. You may have heard me mention before how this has probably been the most stressful year of my life, as I know a lot of people feel the same way. And not to brag, but I normally have my stress levels under control. This year, however, proved to be a much different beast, dealing with personal issues, an extremely hectic schedule, a terrifying news cycle that does not seem to stop. Like 2024 and now the beginning of 2025 got the best of me. But being the health nerd that I am, I knew I needed to support my body in addition to my regular therapy sessions because stress or worry is not just mental, it's a physiological response. When I noticed I was feeling a little more on edge or stressed than normal, I started taking Ashwa Mag. It's a natural supplement formulated by nutritional psychologists that combined ashwagandha, 2 types of magnesium, L-theanine, and methylated vitamin B6, all of which target the root cause of poor mood. I always say to do your research when it comes to supplements, and Ashwa Mag seems like the best mood supplement to me because it had been well researched and the combination of natural ingredients worked to target the root cause. I love that Ashwa Mag helps me feel calm, relaxed, and focused. In fact, one study found that in just 30 days, 84% of users reported better sleep, while 90% saw overall mood improvement after 3 months. So, in case you're looking for natural mood or sleep support too, I got you a discount. Ashwa Meg is exclusively offering the Everygirl podcast listeners 20% off your monthly subscription for first-time customers purchasing on the website with code Everygirl20. Terms apply. The monthly subscription includes free shipping, FYI, which I love. Just visit ashwamag.com, that's ASHWAMAG.com, to start your stress relief journey. Picture this. Your alarm goes off in the morning and you reach for your phone to scroll through TikTok before getting out of bed. You play a YouTube video or an episode of the Everygirl podcast while you get ready for the day. You work for hours on your computer before taking a lunch break where you inevitably watch Instagram stories while you eat, and then you're back to your laptop. After you're done working, you make dinner and put on the new episode of Summer House or rewatch New Girl for the 1000th time. Most of us are straining our eyes all day long. Because of how heavily we rely on screens, our blue light exposure has skyrocketed over the past few decades. Prolonged exposure to blue light can lead to digital eye strain, dry eyes, blurred vision, and headaches, and can impact our focus and concentration, sleep quality, and energy levels. And most of us are being exposed to blue light nearly all day until we shut our eyes at night. Lutein and zeaxanthin are naturally occurring antioxidants that help maintain eye health. Research has shown that they work effectively against blue light to help promote eye and brain health. You can find these nutrients in many convenient supplements in addition to foods like certain fruits or vegetables or even egg yolks. So whether you like to take a pill and just not think about it, or you're a gummy vitamin kind of girl, you can find more information at www.lutamax.com/LFEA and find a high-quality lutein and zeaxanthin supplement to promote eye health at lutamax.com/where-to-buy. Find the links in the show description below. Tip number 4 is to make a plan for every dollar that goes into your account. In the past, I have not been super strategic about my money, let's just say. It was always like, okay, this much automatically goes into my 401k from my paycheck, and I'm making sure I'm able to fully pay off my credit card every month, so like, go me. But I didn't really have any idea if there was extra money in there, where that money was going to. So I felt guilty every time I spent money on anything because my bank account felt like this arbitrary thing that I didn't really have a plan for or that much knowledge about. Like every time I got money, whether it was a bonus or if I would walk my neighbor's dog for $20 or I got a check from my grandma on Christmas, it just went into this account. Like it wouldn't really affect anything about my life. Until I learned that every single dollar that comes into your account should have a job and that you should be strategic about the money that you make. This topic comes up in my conversation with Katie from Money with Katie again, where we were talking about lifestyle creep. Her advice is going to transform the way that you think about what you do with that next raise or even how you look at the dollars currently in your bank account. Here it is.
Traditionally, lifestyle creep refers to the way that as you earn more money and you have more of that resource available to you, you just as a human being are going to tend to spend more of it. Like, I love Oreos. If I have Oreos in the house, I'm going to eat Oreos. But if I have to get in my car and drive to the store and buy the Oreos and put them in the bag and then come home, sit in traffic, I am a lot less likely to eat Oreos on the day that I have to go through all those steps to do it. So if I'm like, hey, I'm trying to eat fewer Oreos, it's probably better to not have them sitting in the pantry. Money works the same way. If you go into your checking account and you see more money in it, you're probably going to spend more money. So that's what we mean when we talk about lifestyle creep. And as people progress in their careers and they earn more money, they tend to spend more money. It often does not happen with intention. It's just kind of like you're sleepwalking through life and scaling up without really being considerate or intentional about the areas of your life that you want to scale up. So rather than making really high leverage money decisions of like, okay, I have more money now. And you know what, man, I would love to have an extra bedroom because I'm going to be working from home. And I think it would really improve my quality of life if I had another bedroom. Rather than that, it's like you feel as though your lifestyle is not actually materially improving. That's a common side effect or a symptom of lifestyle creep is even though you're spending a lot more money, it's like, but my life kind of feels the same. I don't really feel like I'm getting a ton more value, even though I'm spending a lot more. Very different paths between like intentionally scaling up and the lifestyle creep, the unintentional scaling. It's a big reason why people don't make financial progress as they earn more, because without a plan, you're probably not going to just save more on accident. There are very few people, I've talked to thousands of people over the years about lifestyle creep, their incomes, how their lives have changed. It is probably 1 to 3% of them that are just like natural savers that are doing it intuitively, that are not trying to, but are just like, yeah, I just like have $100,000 saved. I don't know how this happened. That's very rare. Most people have to have a plan in place.
Let's just say, for the sake of example, someone receives a promotion or they receive a bonus. What would you do with that check to make sure that you are avoiding lifestyle creep and you are intentionally investing so that your lifestyle improves instead of stays the same?
The first thing that I would do is I would scan my financial life for any areas where I may have been neglecting something. Maybe I have high interest debt and there's like a rogue credit card from my early 20s. I went to Yacht Week in Croatia, couldn't afford it. It's just sitting there on that damn Chase card accruing interest. Knock it out. Get it over with. If you don't have any high interest debt, or maybe, I mean, let's be honest, most people don't have high interest debt from Yacht Week. Most people have high interest debt because like their dog needed surgery and they couldn't afford it. And they were like, fuck it, I'm going to put it on a credit card. But high interest debt is something that I would absolutely tackle first. There is no reason, if you can pay it off, to be sitting there letting Discover make 25% a month on you. From there, I'd probably look at other places in my life, not just my money, where I've been neglecting it. So, for example, your health. If you are someone that didn't used to make a lot of money and you've maybe been neglecting your physical or mental health, there might be investments that you should be making that are not financial. You might need to work with a dietitian or a nutritionist, or you might need to pay for a gym membership so that you actually start getting a little bit more active, or maybe you want to start seeing a therapist. Therapy is expensive. There are things that you might need to take care of that you've been putting off, that now that money is going to enable you to do that. And I think it's important to stay grounded in the reality whenever we talk about money, that money is not the most important thing. So if you are sacrificing your health for the sake of saving money, you have taken a wrong turn. There is no world in which it's worth it to, okay, you're going to have a lot of money later. Well, if you're not in any physical or mental shape to enjoy it, what was the point? So those are important things to take care of first. Also would be thinking about, like, do I have a cash cushion? Do I have the emergency fund that I need so that if something were to hit the fan in the future, I could handle it? Maybe I don't have high interest debt. Maybe I'm actually good to go on health and there aren't any other like imminent life things. Oh, I've been driving this beater of a car that's not safe. I should probably replace it. There's nothing like that in your life that's like screaming for attention. Something's probably going to happen in the future. You want to be prepared for the things that might go awry in the future. So do you have an emergency fund? Do you have a cash cushion? 3-ish months of expenses saved, maybe up to 6, whether you have chronic illnesses or whether you have dependents or you're a homeowner, what have you. Then if all of that stuff is taken care of, which usually at that point, like if we're talking about a modest raise or a bonus, the money's tapped. Like we've used the money in the best possible way. But for those of whom we're so fortunate that like all of that stuff is taken care of, then I would start going, okay, let's make a plan for my life more broadly. Where am I feeling as though I could apply a little bit more money and get an outsized return on happiness? Where am I going to see a disproportionate return on happiness if I spend a little bit of money? For me, it was hiring a professional to come clean my home and wanting to be able to pay them well, because we know that we undervalue care work. But being able to hire a professional to come and to pay them well for their effort and time, that is one of the greatest things that I've ever spent money on. It's one of the first kind of like bougie changes I made in my life when I started earning more. Was like, I know that's going to help me a lot. So you want to start looking for those little areas of high leverage opportunity and go, where am I going to devote a little bit more money? Where am I going to spend more? And then once I do that, what's the plan for the leftover? Because we got to make a plan. If we just leave it in the checking account, we're going to spend it. It's just how it goes. Most people are going to spend it. I spend it. If I just leave it in checking, I spend it. The reason that I don't, and how I've hacked my own behavioral patterns, is I just schedule the money to get taken somewhere else. You auto transfer the money. There's a sweep that comes through checking every month and goes, okay, all of this is going in the investment account before you have a chance to do anything with it. And I think that's like the best possible thing, that as you start to realize, like, I've got my cash cushion, I'm in a good place health-wise, my life is in a good place, I feel as though I can meet my needs and I'm happy and I'm spending on the things I want to spend on, then whatever is not being spent, you want to get it out and into the world and being productive for you in other ways. And the best way to do that is auto transferring the money to an investment account so that it will be invested and will go be productive for you, and that your money can make more money for you. And that's really what the process of building wealth comes down to, is your money making money.
Isn't that so helpful? That truly changed my brain chemistry when it comes to money. Taylor Price explained this concept really well in her episode. Also, she explained it like you are the CEO of your money, and every dollar is an employee with a very specific job to do. So just make sure that your money is working for you. The very last money tip I have for you today also comes from Taylor, and it is to think of your money as a tree. Listen to this advice.
I like to come up with this money tree analogy. Again, it all starts with the mindset. You need to think about this money tree. And so you have your seed of budgeting, you have your roots as your savings accounts and your emergency funds. And in the case that a storm comes by, for example, you lose your job, it's hard financial times, there's a medical crisis going on, something happens with your family where you step up and have to take on some financial burden. You have these roots as your savings account and as your emergency fund, so that when any storm comes, you're able to weather it and feel secure and at peace, knowing that I got my own back. So that's like kind of the second piece there. The third is that your money tree kind of starts to grow. You have your trunk as your primary source of income. And then you go up the tree and you have these branches, and these branches have the leaves, the money leaves, in which this is where it's really about the thriving and not just surviving. And so those branches could be turning your side hustle into a business. Yes, it's going to be risky. Like if you literally look outside at a tree right now, be careful if you're driving, but some of the branches are going to be falling off. Some of the branches are going to be stronger than others. Some of them are going to have a lot of leaves in them. Some of them are not. It's up to you to identify that risk, if that's the risk that you're willing to take, to then generate more income. Like I mentioned, it could be starting that side hustle and trying to turn it into bigger business. It could simply be just investing in the stock market. That's one of the easiest ones that I would say so many people can do literally today, right after this episode, to get started and reap what so many people love, that buzzword, passive income, where you're really in this thrive mode where this money is working for you instead of you always having to work for it.
This metaphor of the money tree was really helpful for me as someone who has been kind of like, I have never in my life done anything really risky financially. Like, even if I had a savings account and an emergency fund and I paid off debt and I started 401k, investing in anything, whether it's real estate or another investing account or investing in myself to any major degree, like going back to school or, whatever it is. Like, I truly get stressed when I buy a $50 shirt or every time I go to dinner on the weekends. So thinking of my money like this stable tree and helping it grow in that way, prioritizing the trunk and the roots. So the leaves here and there, the riskier investments, or maybe even my monthly Uber Eats budget, doesn't matter so much, and I don't have to stress. Like the goal of money is actually not just to save. We've been pretty programmed to believe that that's the end goal. It certainly was, for example, my grandma, who was born during the Great Depression and wanted to save every little cent she possibly could throughout her entire life. But saving is not actually the end goal. Yes, of course, you should save for future you, and maybe you also want to save for your future generations if that's a goal of yours too. But even then, you are saving that money with the purpose of it to eventually be spent. When you are saving money right now, it is so you can spend it on a home that you love or go out to lunch and have a rosé every day when you're a kick-ass 90-year-old. I've learned that money is just not that scary or overwhelming or even strict and boring like I used to think. Money is just this tool that gets you healthy foods and good health care so you get to live a long life with the people that you love. And it gets you experiences, both really big and really small, that bring you joy. Money is just a tool to live your best life. And now that is the definition of rich. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you like this format or have any questions, thoughts, comments, anything, please let me know in Apple reviews or Spotify comments. Come back on Thursday for Ask the Everygirl. See ya! I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know I sure did. Please do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It really makes a huge difference for our show so we can keep growing and bringing the content that you love. If you want more info, you can find us at the Everygirl Podcast on Instagram or theeverygirlpodcast.com. Talk to you next week.